Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Badger Pack Sports. Glad to have you guys back. Today, going to be talking a little bit about injuries for the Badgers, one major injury. Then we got spring ball practice to talk about, some transfer portals, uh, people leaving, people coming in maybe, and then Badger recruit we got to talk about. And to talk about those things, as always, joined by my co-host, Justin Legal. Justin, how's it going?
It's been an up and down spring for the Badger football team, and I am ready to talk about it with you. I'm ready to talk about it with the community.
Yep.
Drop a like, subscribe, please, to this channel. We have a lot to talk about, and I'm ready to roll our sleeves up and talk about some tough things today.
Yeah.
It's been like I said, it's been an up and down spring season so far.
Oh yeah. No, and I do, we're this is a Badger episode, but I did just want to say like we had a lot of fun, me and Justin. We recorded a live full 32 team mock draft on Friday, and that was just fun. Got some people from the, Badger Pack sports community jumping in there and just going through that. So hoping we can do something like that for Badger stuff here. So like Justin said, leave a like, subscribe so you can join in on those things. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, just kind of jumping into the sad news now. Kevin Haywood going to be out. You know, the projected starter at left tackle for the Wisconsin Badgers hurts big time.
Yeah, that was the one of the things that could go wrong this spring, that we did not want to go wrong, kind of went wrong. And we talked about in many episodes previously how we felt the offensive line was going to be a strength of this team. And after one major injury to our by far our best lineman as a true sophomore, which is pretty
Yep.
impressive to say, future NFL guy, high pedigree recruit, really a rock solid left tackle, and we received word that he sustained a leg injury, and I believe yesterday on the 15th of April, they confirmed that it is a torn ACL and he's done for the season. So, what are our options, Robbie? Where do we go from here?
I think Leighton Nelson was a guy who's brought in as a tackle, kind of played all over. I think that could be one. It's like I can't really see Malman moving over. I guess that could be an option, but then you got to move someone to right tackle. This one just hurts, and it's crazy that it's like, you know, it's like this is the one spot. If you would have lost anyone else on the offensive line, you probably could have made it work, but losing the left tackle, and it's like Haywood's been the guy that's been training there, so there's not too many options, I don't think, unless you can play almost a true freshman. And I don't think any of those guys are ready, in all honesty.
No, not in the Big Ten, and they have a lot of development to do. And curious to see what. And I think this puts Coach Blaza gets a lot of public praise. This is a
Yep.
chance for him. His feet's kind of on the fire here to make a move and understand and kind of puts him in a predicament that he
Yep.
needs to, coach up maybe some younger guys or to move a guy like Emerson Mendel. I know that name's been kind of floated at a guard to tackle, which I don't want. And I don't think you do either. I know you shook your head
No,
no.
I do
I
not
don't
want
want
that.
to. Me neither. I guess I'm saying that because I think Blazik has kind of a big decision to make here, covering
Yeah.
and I will say just a segue a little bit here, like Fickle's been a little bit bitten by major injuries. This is 3 straight
Yes.
years now. You had your quarterbacks in year one and year two, and now you got your starting left tackle. Not
Mhm.
to make an excuse for him, but it is a reason if we see some suspect offensive line play. I mean,
Yeah.
thankfully, the silver lining in this whole thing is it's April. It's not like this is week 2 of the season. We have to scramble for Alabama the following week. So we have
Yeah.
time, to kind of get, an alternative plan in place for the line. But I will
Yeah. This
say,
is
man,
where we
if
are
we don't catch a
thankful for
break,
the transfer portal that we'll talk about later. But it's like it is a big deal, and I think that's where you're going to have to go. You're going to have to go to the transfer portal, and I'll bring this guy up now instead of bringing him up later. But just Joe Cotton out of South Dakota State. I think that's been a name that's been floated around. So he's in the transfer portal. You know, just being able to bring a guy in with starting experience. I think that's going to be
yeah,
the biggest move there, probably.
yeah, and he is rated as a top offensive tackle transfer prospect currently. Obviously,
Yep.
that could change in the next 5 minutes as the amount of kids
Yep.
that come and go in the portal. He does have 2 locked in visits with Cincinnati and us, which is great. And I believe I saw something float that he has a no contact tag. Again, how much does that actually mean? I don't know, but that could
Yeah.
tell you that he probably already has his options narrowed down. And the fact that we've been able to lock down a visit with him, we'll have to see. And he actually played
Yeah.
for South Dakota. I misread, and I know you mentioned South Dakota State. I put the wrong
Oh yeah.
school in there in our notes, but one thing that's interesting is he did get to see Madison last year. We did play South Dakota at
Yeah.
Camp Randall, so a little bit of familiarity there, and maybe we scouted him a little bit in the process. So interesting dynamic there. But you're right. We have to look at the portal for a starting tackle, and that sucks. That just
Yeah.
sucks. But hey, the beauty of the transfer portal though is we can move quickly and find a person to fill in
Yep.
that gap. So the portal giveth and the portal taketh. So
Yep. Nope. Absolutely. And kind of going into that portal, one of the big losses I think that most people with that thought was going to be a huge addition, Tanner Koziel, you know, enters the transfer portal after just coming in the last transfer portal. So not even making it a full season. It's like, depending on who you talk to, didn't like being coached. And, if he wants to throw in the comments down here, he can feel free to make an argument for himself. I'm willing to listen. But, that was kind of the thing that I heard, just a little too tough in the Big Ten football. Got to be a Big Ten tight end.
yeah, and again, we're all speculative here. We have no inside sources or anything,
Yep.
but we're fans, so we want to talk about it. I guess kind of now that I've taken the initial shock out of it and thought about it, when we brought him in, he was also nationally kind of said, "Oh, he's one of the top tight ends in the class. He had 90
Yep.
plus catches at Ball State." And he's a kid. He's probably hearing this chatter, and Wisconsin was one of the top
Yep.
targets for him. Did he come into spring expecting the starting job keys to be handed to him?
Yep.
Maybe. I kind of saw that in my mind. It was like, in a guy like Tucker Ashcraft that's right behind him that has been in the program for some
Yep.
time now, was kind of pushing hard behind him and making splash plays in practice. Kind of makes you wonder if he just felt, maybe the starting role wasn't going to just be handed to him, and
Yep.
he was going to be coached hard by Coach Letton. And I know that's a polarizing coach. Some people either love him or him. Um,
Yeah.
but like it's just one of those things. I wonder, this transfer portal era, are kids coming in thinking they're going to be, a penciled in starter when they have these rankings tied to them and production at a previous school. Unfortunately, you have to earn your way, and maybe that's kind of something that was a downfall for him. Obviously we wish him nothing but the best.
Yep.
We're not going to downplay kids, but at his time in Wisconsin, it definitely is not what we expected, and very disappointing to see what happened there.
Yeah, no, I think that one's going to be hard. I mean, Tucker Ashcraft, it's like, and I've heard this on a couple shows, but it's like, I do give him props. He came in as a true freshman and played right away because he had to. Not because he was probably the best tight end, but it's like people got injured or he was the only one. So it's like, and I think that experience has definitely helped him and he's done the dirty work. That's probably something that Koziel didn't have to do. It's like, hey, go and catch the ball. That was his job. Whereas, Ashcraft, he's going to get out there and block. And if he can do okay at catching the ball, well, yeah, then Ashcraft might be like pushed ahead of Koziel because he can do everything. And like that's going to be the biggest thing. You want a tight end who can do everything in Grimes' offense.
Yeah, and I think now it begs the question of who's next in that tight end room. I mean, Cosio is a penciled in starter with Ashcraft. It's like now you slide Ashcraft up probably to that tight end one spot now.
Yeah,
Again, we haven't really seen any tight end names floated to us in the portal. I expect we'd probably
yeah,
dabble there a little bit, but we brought in Jackson McGowan last year from LSU. I know
yep,
we've been kind of trying to work on his body, put some weight on him. Do we not put weight on him? I know he had a cool highlight play in practice that the social
yeah,
media team posted yesterday, which is cool to see because coming out of LSU, there was a little bit of hype around him that he could be a good pass catching tight end. And then there's Grant Steck, which is a guy we brought in,
yeah,
younger kid from last year's, I believe it was in last year's recruiting cycle or the year before, I can't recall. Um, but the reports out of him from him out of camp is he's a massive human being, which I
yep,
think fits kind of that Grimes scheme of, hopefully his run blocking is solid. But again, he's got solid hands as well. So again, young guys having opportunities with this transfer portal era. If we don't bring in the tight end, I mean, that opens the door up for guys like Grant
yep,
Stack and Jackson McGowan. So I'm really,
yeah.
really anxious and curious to see what happens with this tight end room.
Yeah, part of me, I'm going to be rooting for JT Graves out of Monroe, Wisconsin. Drive by the area when I go hunting all the time. So it's like every time I go, I'm like JT Graves running that kind of that good old wing T offense down there. It's like just didn't really even play the tight end position and was more of a basketball player. And he caught a pass last year, I believe, from maybe Metoyer. It actually looked okay. It was a short pass to him, but had some good run after the catch. So could be interesting to see what he does. I know he hasn't got too much hype, but we can see.
Yeah, and I think now we transition to another offensive skilled position here where we lost
Yep.
a transfer is Mark Hamper.
Yep.
This one was a bit odd. I think a couple weeks ago we
Yeah.
received reports out of camp that he, had to return home due to some family issues, and obviously when you have that family issues tag, I think people out of respect tend to just kind of step away and let
Yeah.
let that person deal with things. It sounds like from what we're hearing that it maybe was less to deal with family things and more to deal with he probably didn't want to be around anymore. So
Yeah.
again, I don't know if we'll ever get the 100% truth out of that. Again, it's hard to even comment on guys like this that were at the
Yeah.
program for 4 or 5 months and they dip out after winter conditioning and some spring practices. Um, my
Yeah.
main
No.
question, or go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think that's a talented room, and we've said it
Yeah,
before, and it's like I was liking everybody, and I didn't even have to include Hamper. Now, and like I didn't get to see him. Maybe he'll ball out, as we've said for everybody. Best of luck to him. Can't complain, but it's like if the room's pretty talented, and you don't think you're gonna go get playing time, I guess you got to go somewhere else. So respect the decision. And yeah, and it's like clearly it's like Quincy Burrows, which I'm sure we were going to bring up, but he also transferred. So we'll just bring up both the guys in the room.
yep,
Yeah, two receivers transferring out. Well, I mean, hopefully that means there's good competition. Quincy Burrows was a year or two older, I think, because he's a redshirt junior this year. Quincy Burrows is, and I know that Hamper's at least a sophomore. I can't tell if couldn't remember if he's a redshirt or just a sophomore. But so Hamper would
yeah,
have had more years, but I think with
yeah.
guys that they're probably bringing in, I think he's probably a little nervous there.
Well, and that was the exact point I was going to bring up is, again, I don't have a lot of comments on both Burrows and Hamper. I mean, they didn't provide a whole lot for the
Nope.
program, and with production on the field, they'll probably be missed in the locker room and the field. But what are you hearing at spring ball with the receiving room? Because man, there's a lot of names jumping out there.
I mean, Jaden Ballard, it's like
Hmm.
I mean, I think that could be a huge get. And like this is, I mean, you're taking a guy from Ohio State. It's like a lot of talented guys. I mean, first round picks. We I don't even know the last time we had a receiver taken somewhat early. It's like you probably have to go back to
Nick Toon
Quintez Cephas. Well, yeah, Nick Toon was
or
the earliest. Aberderis probably, I think fourth round even. But so even if you're getting like a fifth or sixth round receiver at this point for Wisconsin, that's huge. Whereas Ohio State's gonna be like, that's a fifth round receiver, not that good. It's like, but for Wisconsin, that's huge. Vinny Anthony, obviously, think he's just been consistent there. Chris Brooks, I love Chris Brooks in this scheme. A
big
big-bodied
dude,
wide
big
receiver.
dude. Yep.
Oh yeah, kind of reminds me of, like your Jacob Pedersons, like your bigger receivers that were kind of meant for blocking, but could make a catch every once in a while. And still, I think he can make some contested catches as well.
Yeah, and I want to go back to Jaden Ballard because I know when we brought him in the portal, I think there was like you had a 50-50 split on him. And I was on the
Yeah,
50% camp where I was like, hey, the guy's got wheels. We need a guy with
yeah,
wheels in this offense. I think he's a low risk, high reward type of guy. He's entering his last season of college ball. I think he's got a lot to prove. Coming over to
yeah,
another Big Ten program like Wisconsin to show Ohio State saying, hey, I am a solid player and I'm going to show out
yeah,
and kind of, stick it to him a bit. We do play them this year too, which would be kind of fun to see. Could it be? I mean,
yeah,
I expect to be a little more amped up for that matchup, but
yeah,
I'm with you though. This room is deep. With him and Vinny Anthony, and then another guy that's been splashing in the slot with Tretch being out is Tyrell Henry. Like you've been seeing his
yeah.
name come out quite a bit and making a lot of plays. And I believe this is his last season too. So it's like
Yep,
you got some
senior.
guys in that, yeah, guys in that room that I think are going to be hungry to flourish in this Grimes scheme with um, a lot of different opportunities for the receivers. And I think a guy like
Yep,
Jaden Ballard is going to be licking his chops with some of these deep shots that Grimes likes to scheme open with the with his offense. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this receiver room. So Burrows and Hamper, again, wish nothing but the best. But honestly, that might be a good sign that we have some solid dudes. And we didn't even talk about Eugene Hilton, the
yeah.
freshman coming
No,
in, who's
I
been
was gonna say,
he, he's been playing with the twos as a true freshman.
yeah.
Like sky's the limit for him too.
I was gonna say, no. It definitely helps when your dad played in the league for a long time at the position. It's like, no, I
And,
I
and
think
we've had
that's
his and we've had his dad at the practices, which has been good to
yep.
see. I love to see that.
Yeah, no, I think that's going to be huge. It's like definitely making the plays. It'll be interesting to see if anything happens with Kai and Barry Johnson. It's like I said, I thought he had a little bit different gear, but new offense. Maybe he doesn't fit it as well, unfortunately, just with the size. It's like I think you can have a couple slot guys. But no, I would say though, just kind of talking offense though, I'm still really excited about Dylan Jones. I think we talked about him last show, but it's like he seems to be kind of moving into that number one spot.
Mhm.
And like I said, just watching his high school tape, he seems like the guy who would fit this offense very well.
Well, and the term is, the word's been floating around is that he's the next great Wisconsin running back. I mean, that's kind of what we've been hearing in the
Yep.
last couple of days, which, I think Braylon Allen, was our last kind of bell cow. Um,
Yep.
would love to have a guy we can hang our hat on in the offense, but Darian Dupree and Katie Akameli they're not slouches either. So I think the running back
No.
room is really solid, and you got Atuka, who's been showing out in practice too as a four.
Yep.
Like I think Atuka could be a solid two in many Big Ten programs, and the fact that we have him as a
Oh yeah.
four is the running back room's been as good as ever, which we're going to need in the scheme that's a heavy run focus.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I don't expect them to get a transfer portal running back. I mean, I know that I think they moved like a safety to the running back room, but it's like everyone thought it was kind of crazy them taking three running backs and then not taking anyone last year. They went for one guy that was top of the board that didn't get him. But it's like, and this is the reason why though, because you got three or four horses that are ready to go. So, I mean, yeah, I'd say four with Yak, and then the three-headed monster class they brought in. It's like it's gonna be fun to
yeah.
watch, I think.
Well, and I want to give a shout out to one guy on the offensive side of the ball, former running back, halfback, fullback, Jackson Aker.
Mm.
Is getting a lot
Yep.
of love. He's playing that kind of H back role in this scheme where, and Jackson Aker is a guy. I think when he leaves a program, we may not feel the effects on the stat sheet, but I think like the locker
Yeah.
room and the program's gonna feel it's like a dude that's been told to change his body multiple different ways,
Yep.
gain weight, lose weight. You're gonna be a running back. You're gonna be a tight end. You're gonna be an H back. Vice, just a guy that's just like solid dude, well respected in the locker room. I'm really excited to see what he can do in this offense. I really hope he gets some
Yep.
opportunities because he deserves it. Like that dude's been an absolute pro.
Yeah. No, I think definitely coming out of Verona, Wisconsin, I think that's huge. It's like definitely just being able to do whatever. It's like unfortunately, yeah, that body type. It's like I don't know how well to do in the NFL. It's kind of one of those things where I think he found a home at Wisconsin, and he's like might not be might not be able to go to the pros, but I'm gonna go do what I can for Wisconsin. So hometown kid. So no, definitely shout out to Jackson Aker. Love what you're doing for the team, buddy.
Yeah. And I know we've talked heavy offense here. Maybe we just
Yeah.
take a couple minutes on defense. And one name that really shouldn't
Yep.
be under the radar, but it kind of has been, and maybe we've taken him for granted. But Rico Hallman sounds like he's having a heck of a camp.
Yeah.
We've been kind of hearing his name. I think last year we talked about this in previous shows with him. I think last year was just a weird year for the defense as a whole, and I think
Yeah.
I think he's taken last year's struggles as a challenge for this year to really
Yeah.
be a leader in that room because he is the alpha dog in that defensive back room. I mean, he's
Yep.
the most seasoned vet. He's going to be the highest upside with him and Fort Greene. I think that's a really solid duo. But I just
Yeah.
want to, Rico Hallman. What we're hearing sounds like he's bigger, faster, stronger. I'm really excited to see what he could do in that secondary.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think you can tell how much other teams respected Hallman just by Fort Green's numbers. I think you could definitely tell they were challenging him because they weren't really going at Hallman. It's like, and yeah, did Hallman have a couple bad games? Yeah, but they were against like top talent going against Alabama and Ohio State. It's like most guys are going to have a hard time there. It's like otherwise, it's like, and those are really the only quarterbacks that threw against him. So I think that's going to be a big thing. But yeah, no, I definitely like the Rico Hallman call out there. I think safety, that one's going to be the interesting position. Uh, Austin Brown, you're going to lock him in somewhere. Preston Zachman, you're going to lock him in somewhere. But then just behind that, you got Matt Trainer, Matt Young. Matt Young, I know, is kind of a big name, coming out of D3 out of Wisconsin. So a lot of fans are liking him. So I think
Well,
safety
then
is definitely
even
going to be a big one. So,
even the freshmen that we came in, Luke Emmerich
oh, yeah.
and Dean coming
Yep.
in,
Grant Dean.
they've been making splash. Yeah, Grant Dean making some splash plays, which gives you some hope for the future. And
Yep.
Our secondary has always been up and down over the years, so it'd be nice to have some
Yeah.
guys solidify in that back end. Um, so yeah, and we'll have to see kind of how that defense shakes out. I think a lot of people are cautiously optimistic on what they're hearing, but again, we'll have to see when
Yeah.
the pads come on in fall.
Well, I think it's like the safeties and like the cornerbacks is going to be interesting. I think people like the linebackers. Obviously talked about it. Tackett Curtis, big fan here. Christian Allegro, I think those
Big
guys are
fan.
locked in.
Yeah,
It's like I haven't heard anything about Tyler Jansky. I don't know if he's hurt or something, but I like him too. It's like
yeah.
he
I wonder
seems
what
like
that
he could
depth.
play.
Well, I wonder what that depth behind them is, and we've also heard Cooper Catalano. His name's been
Oh,
thrown
yep.
around, and he's been playing in the twos.
Yeah.
Part of last year's class. And remember, we got Mason Posa coming in fall
Mm,
too. He wasn't
yeah.
able to do an early enrollee. I think he wanted to do wrestling. I think I heard or something of that
Yep.
nature.
Nope. He won his
Um,
fourth state championship. So
yeah,
congratulations, Mason Post, on that.
yeah, dude's an absolute animal. So I think
Yeah.
when he comes into the room, I'd be curious to see how quickly he can catch up to guys like Catalano. Because I mean, that these reps that Catalano's getting in spring and kind of plugging in and kind of getting up to speed, not just mentally but physically with the Big Ten
Yeah.
play in college. We'll have to see how quick Poso can get in there. Maybe they push and get into that second line.
I was gonna say, if anyone's ever bored and you just want to see some great linebacker highlights, you watch Tackett Curtis and then Mason Post, and you'll be pumped. You
You
know.
don't need coffee. Won't need coffee for the day.
Oh no, you won't. You will not need coffee if you're watching Mason Post and Tackett Curtis. You'll be
Yeah,
running scared if you think those guys are gonna hit you. But no, and
yeah, and
then
I
just
think
I'd say, go ahead.
I was gonna say I think closing the loop on spring ball. This Saturday on the it's at the 19th, I believe. They're going to
Yep.
be having the spring showcase in Madison. I will be there. And I guess a couple of things I'm looking for in person is really just the quarterback play. I know we haven't really talked about that much right now, but just I want to see Edwards, I want to see O'Neal, and I really want to see if Carter Smith gets some looks. I kind of
Yeah.
want to just get my eyes on him. I also want to look at the scheme and just kind of see how this looks visually. We've heard a lot of terms like eye candy and motion and jet sweeps and tunnel screens. I want to see kind of how that looks because I mean the last 2 years under Longo's system, it sounds like it's gonna be a complete 180 from that. And my other thing I'm really looking for is the interior defensive line. Do they look bigger? Are they playing bigger? Are they creating disruption and havoc? I think those are the big things. I will have my 2-year-old son with me, so we'll see how much I can actually watch. But I want to start him young and bring him down to Madison, and I'm really looking forward to the spring practice. So if anyone's going to be there, drop in the comments, reach out. Definitely love to connect and then meet some of you guys.
Yeah, no, I wish I could be there, but somebody's wife is having a baby shower that same day, so I can't make it because I got
I don't
I
know
got to
whose
watch
wife
the
that
kids.
is. I don't
I
know who
think
that
it'd be
would be.
yours, Justin. It would
And
definitely
that's
be
why I'm free
yours.
to go to Madison on Saturday. It works out for
Yeah,
me.
yeah, works out for you, doesn't work
You
out
could
for
bring
me.
the Sorensen crew to Madison. There's plenty of room. There's plenty of room.
Yeah, yeah, no, I would not. I wouldn't be able to watch the practice at all. That'd be the
Right.
issue.
Right.
They'd be on the field somehow. My son would somehow end up on the field, and I'd be like, oh, he's
Well,
gonna
he
be
can
a
get
Badger. Don't
recruited.
worry,
Yeah,
guys.
say
Yeah,
Fickle will be
yeah,
taking notes.
yeah. So, but no, just kind of looking at the portal though, we already talked about Joe Cotton. Think some other guys that we have listed as interested. You got the Penn State cornerback, John Mitchell, 6 foot 185. It's like I think you got to keep bringing in talent. We've talked about the depth in the cornerback room. Thankfully, Hallman's back and Fort Green's back, allegedly. Fickle will say he's back though. Man, that dude got on it about he's on the team. He's here. He won't be playing. So, but no, I think you got to keep bringing in talent at the cornerback position. It's like it also just seems like one, we had quite a few guys leave that room from the 2023 class, and so I think cornerbacks because they are kind of a diva position. I don't think what's going to go on with them. You got to keep bringing guys in.
Yeah, and I think I like the idea of Mitchell coming in. I mean, even I remember we were talking before the Fort Greene, what do you want to call it, settlement or whatever
Yeah,
court case that was thrown out there, or whatever
yeah,
the legal term is. I'm not a legal guy. Only thing legal about me is my last name. You know, uh, we were concerned about depth in the room, so I wouldn't mind looking at that. And a guy in the Penn State, he was a top 65 recruit in the 2024 class, so that means he's got eligibility and he has talent. Let's bring him in. And as we've found out with guys like Koziel and Hamper, you bring them in doesn't mean they'll stay, but bring the guys in. We'll see what happens. If they stick, they stick. If they don't, then there's an easy way out for both
Yep.
parties.
Wish you the best of luck.
Yeah. And then the
Hope
other
you
guy
enjoy
we've been
Madison.
Well, and the other guy we've looked at, or we've been probed as a FCS guy, Illinois State receiver Xavier Lloyd. Last season, 66 catches, 912 yards, 6 scores, solid production.
Yep. Good
I don't
size
know
at
much about the
6'2".
guy. Yeah, yeah.
So just kind of the
Again,
bare bones. We haven't looked at too much tape on this guy.
and the portal just opened today too, so it's like these
Yep.
names are going to keep coming through. Not going to hate on the guy. I don't know much about Xavier Lloyd, but we just talked about how much we love the receiver room now. So we bring him in. I expect he'll be in the 3 or 4 deep fighting for a spot.
Yeah.
We'll have to see. But again, more bodies in the room won't hurt. I'm
Yeah.
really
He's
looking
a
at the tight end
junior, so he
position.
would have one more year potentially there.
Yeah. I think the biggest position, and maybe this is a good question, is, what are your biggest positions of need in the spring window? I think there's 2 obvious ones, which we talked about with the
Yeah,
offensive line
I think you're going to go offensive line, probably corner.
and tight end.
It's going to be.
Do you look at tight end? I feel like you have to at least dip your foot in dip
Yeah,
your toe in the water and see what's out there. Because
yeah, you got to look at it. Unless you trust the guys that you've brought in, it's like kind of a sad one with Rob Booker. I liked him, but the concussions got to him, so he retired. But it's like you said, you got Jackson Aker. He's going to be kind of more of your H-back role anyway. So it's like, yeah, tight ends are used, but it's like, is one of them more of an H-back? In which case, I think Jackson Aker's got that one secured. And then, Ashcraft really has, stepped up his production. Grant Steck, we've had bad tight end rooms for a while now, so I don't know what a good one looks like anymore since Jake Ferguson.
yeah, I'll be curious to see what they do, and maybe they bring in a guy that's a little less proven and younger, and just kind of put him in and plug him in the room. I feel like either go that extreme or you go the other extreme where you find a 5th-year guy that's like, hey, I'm dying for one more season, and they have some production at a bigger school or an FCS school. I'll be curious to see. But I think red alert number 1 is that offensive tackle position, because that is
Maybe they move Angel Toombs back to tight end. I don't know why, but I am a big Angel Toombs fan. He was actually one of the few guys who looked good in the launch. And now, if anybody actually watched the launch, it was tough to find anybody with some production in that game. But Angel Toombs, who they moved to outside linebacker, and then actually had a highlight of blowing up, I think it was Derek Jensen last year. But so, I don't know. I'm rooting for Angel Toombs, my under the radar guy. Flip him back, put him at tight end.
That is under some more of the radar.
Yeah.
Leave it to Robbie Sorensen to dig out some names, blast from the past. Speaking of blast from the past, what about the blast to the future? We had a pretty awesome recruiting win so far.
Yes.
Is it a win? I don't know.
Is it a win?
Well, let's talk about that.
For right now, it's a win. Unless there's a better offer, and then it's a loss. But no, Ryan Hopkins, the future starter of modern day football out in California, because he has not played for them yet.
Not snap.
Which is something that keeps being reported, that like, oh, we got the starter from modern day, which he will be, but he hasn't played there yet, so that's a big thing. But no, guy who can throw, but it's like he's got speed, but I guess he doesn't have to use it too much. Kind of a guy that I think is good for this offense. He can throw on the run, but then if he needs to, he can use his legs. So not really a run first quarterback, which is nice to see. A lot of people have said he would be a great fit in the Paul Chryst offense. So, but I think Grimes, I'm still liking this offense, the gritty Grimes offense. So I'm happy with this pickup. This is really exciting. Even though I did like Travis Burgess, I think I kind of liked him better as far as an arm strength standpoint, but possibly in this offense, Hopkins might be better.
Yeah, and I know Grimes, it's been heavily reported that he likes a guy that has a dual threat. And we're not talking Michael Vick or RG3 type of dual threat. We're talking about a guy that's competent with his legs that can burn you for 6, 7, 8, 9+ yards. just to keep a defense honest. In Wisconsin, we
Yeah.
haven't had a quarterback like that. I mean, I know Tanner McAvoy was a project that could run a little bit,
Yeah.
and Russell Wilson's a name that's always
Yeah.
thrown around for athletic quarterback. Um, I feel like we're that this term is overused a lot, and I don't know what term to use it, but we are stacking talent in the quarterback room. Carter Smith from the last class, super athletic. He's definitely a faster and more elusive guy than Hopkins, but
Yeah.
Hopkins is not far behind.
I
Six
don't
foot.
know. They're projecting Hopkins to run like a 4.5. He could
Yeah,
potentially be faster than Smith. It's just that he doesn't run as much. He's not going to get the ball and just kind of design run. And
yeah.
it's like
Smith is
maybe
more.
modern day, maybe you see more of that though. Maybe they have a package for him to run the ball. So it'll be interesting to see what the senior tape ends up looking like.
Yeah, I mean, and you love his measurables. 6'3", 200 pounds.
Yep.
Like he's got size. He's
Yeah.
tall. He can see over the line. Um, I'm really curious to see how he does in that higher competition. And speaking of that, and maybe we give this a few moments before we close the show, but it's like there's been a lot of chatter around Hopkins. When he committed, and this is a verbal commit, nothing's been signed.
Yep.
He kind of went on social media and other platforms talking about how he's committed to Wisconsin 1,000%. I think he said, but he's still opening up his
Yeah.
doors if an Ohio State comes calling. I know that's received some backlash from Badger fans. I don't know where's your head at with that, Robbie?
Yep, nope, absolutely. We talked about this before the show even started. He said the quiet part out loud. I am not upset about that at all. It's like he's committed 1,000%, which means he's getting some thousands of dollars. But you up that money, and he might have to think about leaving because it's like maybe he's got some bills to pay. You know, mom and dad need some help.
California is
It's
an
like
expensive place to live. He needs to get
yeah,
some
exactly.
money, man. I,
So it's like, nope, I get it. It's like, and they're always recruiting. Like if Kenny Guyton kind of messes it up, like just stops talking to him because he thinks that he's 100% committed, that's on Kenny Guyton. It's like, this is your job. It's like, you got the kid. Now you need to continue to recruit him and make sure you have open communication there.
yeah, and I'm with you. We're in the Lockdown Badgers Discord, and there's been a lot of people saying it's like people are already defeated about the fact we got this kid. And everyone's like, oh, if he has a good year, I expect him to be at a different program. And I'm on the complete opposite end. It's like,
Yeah.
guys, I'm not saying Wisconsin's a juggernaut program right now, but it's like we are like let's puff our chests out a little bit. Like we are a Big Ten school. We have a lot to offer.
Yeah.
A great opportunity for him. Let's we've locked him down. Let's keep him locked down. And I'd rather be the one being chased than the one doing the chasing. So it's like we already have a shoe in with the kid, and that's how I'm looking at it.
Yep.
To your point, like if he has a great year at Mater Day and Ohio State comes calling or Oregon or USC or one of those schools, um, poking his interest, it's like Kenny Guyton and the staff need to have that intelligence to be ahead of that stuff. Like this,
Yeah.
there's not many surprises in this generation anymore. Things are on social media, things are tweeted out and posted, and highlight films are accessible. Like
Yep.
all I would say is stay on top of this kid. Kenny Guyton was brought in to not just develop quarterbacks in the room, but to recruit. That was one of the things that was talked about.
Yeah.
So we've done the hard part now. He's got to commit. Now let's hang on to him. And I believe we can. Like, let's have a little bit of confidence here instead of this whole, we hope there's been people saying we hope he has a bad year at Matter Day so he can
Yeah.
no other big schools come calling. I
No,
I don't like
I never am gonna wish a bad season on a kid. It's like to me that's just not right. It's like if he's committed to your school, I don't get the point in wishing bad for people. It doesn't make sense to me. And no, I think you look at Carter Smith. I hope that Carter Smith talked to Hopkins when he came in because he's like, yeah, it's like I was supposed to go to Michigan. Guess what? They pulled my offer for the best guy, supposedly. It's like I'm sure Carter Smith's going to be mad about that. I hope that somehow Carter Smith eventually gets to play Underwood, and I think that will be fun. But it's just like that's something you tell them. It's like, hey, our offer to you is solid. We're not just going to look for somebody better. I think Wisconsin has that honesty. Hearing the way Fickle and most of the coaches talk is that they're giving them their heart. It's like I don't think that message, goes as well if you start offering kids and then pulling offers. So I think this is a 100% offer from Wisconsin. So if he's 100% locked in, Wisconsin's 100% locked in on him.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to close the show, and I'm excited to see it. And let's hope this gets the class to the 2026
Yep.
recruiting class moving further. I know there's been some concern, but it's like we brought in three or four guys now in the last 10
Yep.
days. It's like, getting a quarterback in this class I think it's going to help pick up some steam. And I know there's some bigger names coming on the campus in the next few
Yep.
months. Um, so yeah, man,
Well, and
I'm pumped
a
for it.
lot of these kids, a lot of the kids, I mean, they want to be locked in before their senior year, but it's like a lot of them want to travel in the summer. So once school starts ending, I think that's where you're going to get the commits because you'll got kids will have their summer road trip. Now that all the COVID stuff's pretty much over, I think these kids are back to getting excited. Whereas I think before when you couldn't really travel, they were committing earlier because it's like they weren't really even going to the schools. How many could you go to the school? Who knows? So it's like now these kids are taking those experiences. They're going with their family. Great for them. But yeah, no, we're done with this show. But just remember, we are 100% locked in to our community here. So be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.